Good, good.
Morning.
So, so yeah, we definitely have a few people joining us. What I wanted to do is kind of start off and set the tone for the evening. If you have any questions, feel free to text it in the chat. But I just wanted to get started. We are joined by none other than I call him the Brad Chandler. Brad has done over 4,000 real estate, successfully closed over 4,000 real estate transactions in 2003, and has had a great business and a lot of great things have happened. But like a lot of us, we get stuck for different reasons. So what I wanted to do, Brad, is tell me a little bit about how you guys started in real estate, and then maybe the tipping point when you shifted into what you're doing now.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Thanks for the introduction. This group that you have is absolutely amazing what you've built. Wow, it's really amazing, and I can't wait to bring a bunch of value. So thanks for having me tonight. If everyone can mute if they're not talking, we're going to open this up for questions towards the end, so I'll let you talk. But if everyone can mute, that would be great. I have not done this enough to know how to mute everyone. So Tom, I want to correct a little something you said. So I have fixed and flipped and wholesaled over 4,000 houses. But if you count all the real estate transactions, I think I'm at double that. I think I'm somewhere in the $7,000 to $8,000 range, because I started Keller Williams team in 2008, and by 2010 we were the #1 Keller Williams team. We had done $120 million in transactions, and we did almost 800 transactions in a year. Wow. So I will tell you though that we probably lost $1 million doing that. And if you can remind me later, I'll tie that into why we lost $1 million and why I did it. Okay. I had a crazy goal of becoming the first agent team to ever sell $1 billion in 1 year. So anyway, what got me into real estate? What I thought got me into real estate was freedom and trying to make a bunch of money. So I read a book in 9th grade on how to buy real estate with no money down by a guy named Robert Allen. Robert Allen is one of the OGs in this business. Robert Allen, maybe Robert Shemin I'd throw in there. And then who's the one I'm forgetting? He's in my mastermind group.
Carlton Sheets? No.
Carlton Sheets, but that's who I was thinking. Ron LeGrand.
Ron LeGrand, yes.
So those are some of the OGs. Anyway, I read a book and I was like, wow, I can make a ton of money in real estate. And I'd gone through a life where at 10 years old, my dad moved out and he didn't financially support us. And my mom at one point in time, who was a nurse working 2 jobs to support us, said to me that we may lose our house, the childhood house I grew up in, and we may have to move into public housing. So I was like, I don't want any part of that. So something imprinted in my mind and said, we got to make sure you make a lot of money. And ironically, I got into houses. I could have been selling pianos or anything, but I think that little boy, that 10-year-old brain was like, I'm never going to be without a house. No one's ever going to tell me that I've got to move into public housing. So at any given time, I've owned probably 150 houses. We own a much less now, but probably around 2012 with the rentals and the flips and stuff, I was probably close to 150, 200 houses at one point in time. So I guess it made me feel, safe and secure, because we all are just little kids locked up in these adult bodies. So that's my story and how I got into real estate. Actually, an investor bought my neighbor's house in 2002, and I went and talked to him, and he said, yeah, I buy houses at 30% below market. I fix them up and then I resell them. And it may have said it in Robert Allen's book, but I didn't remember. I was like, really? You can buy real estate at that cheap and resell it? I was like, that's what I'm going to do. So Tom, for 8 long months, I mean, you've heard this story before. For 8 long months, I tried to find my first deal. I didn't have a mentor. So I was just doing everything I could on my own. I was showing up to real estate meetings. And at the time they had RIAs, Real Estate Investment Association. And I looked at all these other people and I was like, if they can do it, I can do it. So I just kept on getting more persistent as the days went by. And in July of that year, I committed in December of 2002. In July of 2003, I bought a house. I bought my first house. In July and August of 2003, I bought 6 houses. And in October, I went to my boss and I said, I quit. I came home to tell my wife at the time, and we just had a newborn son. I said, I just quit my job. I'm starting Express Home Buyers. She was like, are you crazy? We have a newborn son and I've got 2 kids. Like, how are we going to live? And I was like, it'll be fine. And here we are 20 years later. We're not still married, but everything's fine.
Right. Fantastic. Hey, so let's flash forward. I know a good bit about your story. What was kind of the tipping point for you? You had a lot of successes. Talk a little bit more about some of the maybe the failures, and then what brought you to the transformation. Because the guy I met years ago and the guy here today is just a cool, different dude.
Yeah. So I had a fortunate experience where I was trying to get my son help for his anxiety. And I was on a call with a performance coach, and the performance coach said, "You have a tic." And I was like, "I don't know, what is this lady talking about?" She's like, "You blink profusely when you talk about your childhood. You may have some unresolved childhood trauma." So she said, "It could be affecting your son's anxiety and your life in general. Do you want to come out and work with myself and my husband?" And I go, "Sure, I'll do anything to help my son." So it was at that point in time, I took a trip out west, and in literally a weekend, or really 3 hours, a 3 hour session, my entire life changed. And I went back and looked at all of the things that were wrong. At the time, I didn't know. So it wasn't that I woke up every day and I was like, "I'm so unhappy." But when I look at my decisions and the stuff that I did, I had 2 failed marriages. I made 5 business mistakes in 17 years that cost myself and my partner $9 million. $9 million. I had, I used weed quite a bit. I mean, there was probably a year or two where I used weed every night before I went to sleep. And my excuse was it helped me sleep. And it might have helped me go to sleep, but it certainly didn't help my sleep. And that's been proven by science that if you smoke weed, you can't get into REM sleep, and it's no bueno. So I would use weed. I would use alcohol in social situations to feel better. Both of my kids had behavioral issues. So I thought I had everything together, was making the money, had the fancy car, bought a yacht when my second wife left me. And once I did the work to try to help my son, I was like, whoa, I really did have a big problem. Like I lived a lie for 47 years trying to be this person that I wasn't, because I didn't think the person that I was worthy. So that's what led me to have all of those, poor relationships. My health has gotten a lot better. I'm in an intimate relationship now that's like night and day difference. I just turned 50 and I feel like I'm 25. My business, Express Home Buyers, we did 256 deals last year, and I currently work an hour a week in that business.
Wonderful.
So things are really dialed in. So I came back from that trip and I looked around and I said, "Oh my gosh, like this is why the world is suffering right now." And a lot of people will think this is woo-woo, but you can think whatever you want. It's you're a human being. An individual's lack of self-love and self-compassion is the cause of 99% of every problem we have in this world. From the
Including
war,
health.
what's that?
Including health, right?
Everything. If you look at hospitals are full. Hospitals are full, prisons are full. The war in Ukraine, child sex trafficking, the obesity rate in the United States or worldwide, the divorce rate. 30% of Americans are on some type of SSRI, an antidepressant or anti-anxiety. Everything comes back to an individual's lack of self-love and self-compassion. But why do we have self-love and lack of those things? It's because of thinking. So every single problem you have in your life right now and have ever had always comes back to a thinking problem. And that thinking problem is not your fault. It was your brain's way, as when you were a child coping with some stressful thing, that your brain said, "Hey, we've got to come up with a reason for why this is happening." Usually that reason is something around we're not good enough, we're bad. And then that gets buried in our subconscious mind, and our subconscious mind controls 95% of our behavior on a daily basis. So again, if someone would have asked me 3 years ago, "Brad, do you have self-love?" I'd have been like, "Of course I do." "Do you care what other people think?" Hell no, I don't care what other people think. But it wasn't the truth. I lived a lie for 47 years. The truth was I really did care what people thought, because if not, I wouldn't have been drinking and smoking weed to feel better. And I didn't love myself. And now I do. And everything has changed, including my business, my health, my relationships. I wake up every day now. Real estate was always a means to get. Now I look back on why I got into real estate. It was to make money. It was to make money to make myself feel better, because I didn't feel good about myself. Now I wake up every day and I do exactly what I want to. And that's, I help people end their suffering. I just ended a 2-hour hypnosis session, because part of my toolkit is hypnosis, where we can actually go into the subconscious brain. which controls everything and knows the source of your problem and your pain. And we can figure out what it is and then rewrite that story. So yeah, I wake up every day. My life is just absolutely incredibly amazing. And I help other people achieve the same thing.
Right, right. And the thing that I like about everything that you said is, your thoughts, your words, how you feel, and then you always talk about, in a number of conversations we had before, about the programming of the past. So as entrepreneurs, we're already taking risks that most people won't take, which causes additional anxiety. So if we're not dealing with things from our past, it's going to hinder our growth. What has been your experience with some of your own experiences and some of your students? How have they been able to translate the transformation into dollars?
Yeah, I mean, almost everyone I work with sees more success in their business and their marriage and their relationships and their health. Entrepreneurs, I think, primarily start businesses for a couple reasons: to make a lot of money because they don't feel worthy, and for control, because a lot of us didn't have control as a child. So we think we can control things by having a business. And the truth is, you control very little in this world. You get control by giving up control. And the only real thing you can control in this world, literally all the time, every day, are your thoughts. That's it. And your thoughts create every single problem you have in your life. But on the flip side, they create every success and every great thing in your life too. So when I look at entrepreneurs, when I look at the people I coach, and I'm still connected, really deeply in with the real estate community. And I think one of my buddies was telling me that the average is about 3% of people who sign up for real estate coaching programs actually succeed and do a deal. 3%. So why, in some of those 3% are wildly successful, are those 3% of people any smarter than the 97% that fail? I would say hell no. If you look at the discrepancy between a Fortune 500 CEO and a mid-level manager at Walmart, their IQ difference is crazily, it's so small, it's infinitesimal, right? So why is it that those 3% of people can take the same exact content and go be wildly successful? A lot of it has to do with their programming. And this gets a little hairy because some people's, like me, I'll use me as an example, in the one example, is that I felt so unworthy that I pushed myself to make millions of dollars. But in the process, I made those 5 mistakes that cost me 9 million. So I made a lot of money, but I gave back a lot of money. Then you have people, Tom, who are told to, hey, you've got to go make 100 phone calls or cold calls. You've got to go knock on the door. And then the people become paralyzed with fear. They can't do it, but they don't know why. And their coach is telling them, just change your mindset. Just look in the mirror and say, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. Well, mindset is an overused word that doesn't work well, because if you've got that deeply rooted subconscious beliefs that I'm not enough, I don't belong, I'm helpless, I can't get what I want from early childhood programming, you can sit all day long in the mirror and tell yourself these affirmations, but they're not going to work. Hence, why is it that so many people go to these Tony Robbins events? They're so fired up. They walk across the coals without their feet burning. They get home on Monday and they look around. They're like, oh shit, nothing's changed. I still can't make that phone call. This isn't a knock on Tony Robbins. I love him. He's one of my idols. But if you want lasting change, whether you've got physical pain or mental pain, there's only one way to solve it, to really, truly solve it. Drugs don't solve it. Typical talk therapy doesn't solve it. You got to go to the source of the pain. That's the only way, because none of you were born with OCD, addictions, obesity, anxiety, depression. None of you were born that way. Less than probably 5%, I think it's way lower than that, of all diseases and illnesses in the world are actually genetic. Their environment, they're brought on by your environment and your lifestyle. But why do you have a shitty lifestyle? Because of the way you think. I'm going to come home at night, I'm going to eat a bunch of ice cream and drink a bunch of beer. So you might tell like I'm a little bit passionate about this. I can go on and on and on and on and on. Yeah. But for the folks on this call, you're thinking, how does this work? Why am I listening to this? Well, one, someone's going to listen to this likely, whether it's today or on a replay, And this is going to completely change your life forever. And this isn't touting me. This isn't like I'm your savior and I'm going to fix you. No, 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 no. You're going to hear something that is going to resonate with you. And you're going to be like, holy smokies, this guy's onto something. Is it really this simple? And the truth is, it is this simple. It's not easy. If you want to get to freedom, you've got to move through the pain of the truth to get to the freedom. So someone on this call, and why do I do this? This is the first business I've started in my life where money, I certainly do charge, but it's not because of the money. It's because of the impact. It's because of the text that I get from people saying, thank you for helping change my life and my family's life. So someone's going to hear this and it's going to change their life. So impact, I mentioned the word impact. I made a shift in the last 2 years of trying to make a bunch of money to prove my worth to all I want to do now is impact the world. I turned 50, celebrated in Jamaica a couple of weeks ago. I'm gonna live to be 110. I'm manifesting that because my diet and lifestyle are impeccable for the most part. So I'm gonna live to be 110. So I'm gonna help 1 million people on this planet. I want to make an impact. And making an impact doesn't mean making a bunch of money. It means changing people's lives. So you're like, well, how does this impact me? Well, when I shifted at Express Home Buyers from trying to make a bunch of money to making an impact, how can I better serve my sellers? How can I better serve my employees? How can I better serve my investors? That's when we had one of our best years last year. So if you're an entrepreneur that's focused on money and you've got these programming that's driving you and you're like me chasing the shiny object, you know how many things I did where I shouldn't have done? I'd go and open, I went in literally 5 days and opened an office in Virginia Beach in like between 2008 and 2010. I didn't even have a system to keep my brochure boxes filled in Northern Virginia. A simple thing. And I was going, opening an office, renting a place, getting a copier, hiring 5 people. Because again, why was I driven by that? Look, I didn't know why. I was like, oh, this is a great move. No, it wasn't a great move. It was a terrible move. But remember our subconscious mind controls everything. I think my subconscious mind was saying, if I can open up Virginia Beach and make $1 million, I might be worthy. So take a hard look if you're a real estate investor. What's driving you? Question yourself all the time, every second. Why am I thinking this way? Why am I making this business decision? Why did what my wife just say irritate me so much? Because nothing that anyone says or does should ever irritate you. It's never about the other person. It's all how you feel inside about yourself. If you take nothing away from this talk besides that, hear that again. No one can make you mad. No one can break your heart. The word responsibility is the ability to respond. If someone makes you mad, it's the universe's and your body's way of saying, hey, something is unsettled. Just like when you have a temperature, it's your body's way of saying you're sick. When you feel an unease or sadness or depression or anxiety inside of you, it's because something is unsettled inside of you. Take the time. Don't reach for a beer or a joint or sex or gambling or shopping or doing some crazy ass business deal. Just sit there. Take a deep breath. Be present, because when you're present, you can actually think. Be present, connect with your breath, and then figure out, what am I feeling? Give yourself compassion for that emotion, whatever it is, because most of us as children did not get the opportunity to have compassion for emotions. And then try to figure out where it came from. And where it came from is your brain going back to somewhere in your past as a child, and you're bringing that meaning into the present. So when you're arguing with your spouse tonight or last night or whenever you argue, it is nothing to do with the actual argument at hand. It has to do with the way someone made you feel before, and you're bringing that emotion into the argument.
So are you saying the argument can be a trigger from a past event?
It always is.
Wow.
100. It's not 99%. It's 100% of the time.
Wow.
It's always
so
something.
We could get frustrated with each other that has nothing to do with each other.
It has nothing to do with each other. No. And when someone's mean to you or yells at you, it has nothing to do with, it has to do with them and how they feel about themselves. So if you take it personally, again, something is unsettled inside of you.
Sure. Well, we do want to tell a quick story, because I've known you now for quite a while. And a few years ago, we had a business meeting, very important business meeting. I set my alarm. I wanted to make sure that I got there on time. You live almost 2 hours. Virginia is almost 2 hours from my house. I was 8 minutes late, and the old Brad Chandler sent me home. Well, we went out on the boat with you last week, and we were 35 or 40 minutes late. You're like, yeah, no big deal. And you waited for us. So I love the new Brad.
Thank you. It's a completely different way of life. And until you experience it, it's almost hard to describe. And if someone's thinking, well, my life is good, it's not that bad. I developed the self-love quiz for people just like you. And look, my hope is that your life is amazing. I'm not looking for new clients, but I developed this quiz because I did it specifically for me, because I thought if 3 years ago someone was talking about self-love, I would have probably just checked out. I would have been like, I don't need to listen to this. It has nothing to do with me. But yet it's made the most profound impact on my life and my children's life and my health and my intimacy than anything I've ever done in 50 years, right? I learned how to love myself. So if you're sitting there saying, I think I love myself, well, all you have to do is look at your results that you've got in life. What do your relationships look like? Do you have a really great intimate relationship, or do you bounce from one bad relationship to the next? Do you do self-destructive things, drink a lot, smoke weed, eat too much, have risky sex, gamble, anything that's self-destructive? Do you take things personally? Do you always want to be right? Are you in a triggered state a lot? All of these are questions off my self-love quiz. There's 12 questions. It takes literally three minutes to take.
We'll make sure everybody here gets it.
Yeah. So it's at bradchandler.com/love. So go take it. And
Okay, let me put that in the chat. bradchandler.com/love, correct?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I mean, you can even take it while we're on the call. I'd love to, if anyone is bold enough and vulnerable enough to share the results, I'd love for you to put that in the chat. Here's the thing. You can either score extreme self-love, or you can score mild self-love, or you can score lack of self-love. If you score lack of self-love or mild self-love, don't be upset or sad. Just the opposite. If you scored one of those, your life can profoundly change in ways that you probably can't even imagine. Because once you start loving yourself, and you do that through living in the truth that you're enough, you see the world in a completely different light. I literally have seen, I mean, I've changed 180 degrees. So yeah, take the quiz, and if you want to share away with us.
Yeah, I just I put the link in here. Forgot it doesn't create a hyperlink unless you take it right from
okay.
toolbar.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, I just pulled the quiz up. If anyone wants to take it, it's just a few quick questions. Brad's going to get the answers. Obviously, you can follow up with you, if not tonight, sometime soon. If you want to do it tonight, that's okay as well. One of the things I want to tell everyone in the group is, or everyone that's listening, is my wife and I are active investors in the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia market. Brad does business in the DMV as well. So we've known each other for a long time. And, one of the things that we're doing in this situation, this conversation, my wife is taking advantage of Brad's coaching program, and we're going to be talking about that and some of the progress that she's making, in future events coming up. But what I wanted to ask you again, Brad, is, was there a life event that happened in your business or your personal life where you said, you know what, this is it, and then you made that shift?
No, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier. I thought I had everything together, and from the outside world, everyone looked at me like, "Hey, this guy who's on TV every day running these commercials must be this like multimillionaire." And on Facebook, of course, I wasn't putting the fights with my wife. I was just putting all the great stuff with my wives and how great life was. So I had a really interesting life journey, in that I didn't wake up one day and was like, it's not like I drank myself into a stupor and woke up in the bushes one day. I went to get my son help for anxiety, and in getting my son help for anxiety, I was awakened. So that's why when I mentioned the self-love quiz, I literally built that for myself, because I want other people out there that are like, this guy, like, who's he talking to? Like, I love myself. Okay, well, go take the quiz. It'll take you all about 3 minutes. So no life event. Through my son was the way he was because of me and his mother. Nice. This is another interesting point. when you're broken like I was, or unwhole, I think is a better word, you never go meet someone who's enlightened. You always go meet someone with issues, and typically the same issues that cause your trauma in the first place. Because
Right.
remember Mr. Subconscious Brain that we talked about that
Mhm.
rules your life? Your subconscious brain's only point in your body, in your mind, is to keep you alive. It doesn't care if you're happy or sad. So let's just say that you grow up with a mother who was yelling all the time, and you came home and you didn't know when the next shoe was going to drop because she was yelling all the time. There's a good chance you're going to go marry a spouse that yells all the time because your subconscious mind is going to pair with that person. It's insane. So
Yeah.
my wife, my ex-wife, and myself affected my son, and it came full circle. And fortunately, I was able to get help in something
Right.
completely different than talk therapy, something that completely radically changed my life in a matter of 3 hours. And then I know that I came back from that trip and I was like, I've got to give this gift. Like, this is why I was put here. I now
Right.
know my purpose. And that's another thing, Tom, that when the lion's chasing you, when you've got this programming that's causing you to not love yourself, and that lion's chasing you, it's really, really difficult to find your life's purpose. But
Right.
once you kill that lion, which is my specialty, we kill lions. We kill, people we kill the lions that are chasing my clients.
Right.
You wake up and you look around and you're like, okay, now I can take a deep breath. I don't have to look for the lions anymore. And now I can figure out why I was put on this beautiful earth.
Yes. Yes. And you, the impact that you've made in the real estate space will never go away. And again, the fact that you had a fantastic year last year, that's great. We definitely want to maybe even get together another time to talk about some of the best practices in the real estate realm. But tell me, you're certified now in your coaching program. Tell me what that certification is called and what is it about?
So I have I feel blessed to have studied for the last pretty much 2 years or 2.5 years since coming back from that trip. I've done nothing but study and work with clients. So I've put thousands of hours. I've read, I think I'm approaching 50 books since February of 2021. Some of the best teachers, I think, on the planet. So one of them was a guy named Dr. Gabor Mate. I took a training course with him. Um, he is a doctor and physician who's been around for 40 years and specializes in trauma and addiction. So I studied under him, and then last year I studied under a lady named Marissa Peer, who was in 2005 was the #1 therapist in all of the UK, and
Right.
she has a program called Rapid Transformational Therapy,
Uh-huh.
and it is a combination of NLP, neuro linguistic programming,
Sure.
CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and hypnosis. And people hear hypnosis and some people tune out and they're like, I don't want to be that guy up on stage chasing the mouse around. But that's nothing what hypnosis is about.
Right.
Every day you're in hypnosis. If you're taking a shower, if you're driving to work and you're not thinking about, hey, let me push the gas and then the brake and let me turn right on Main Street, you're in a hypnotic state where you're just in a deeply relaxed state. So why I know or think that that's one of the best ways to treat and heal people is because, again, being in a hypnotic state allows us to tap into your subconscious, which is the source of all your pain. And the subconscious brain knows the exact source of your pain. So in a hypnotic state, whatever your issue is, let's say that you're depressed, I would say, hey, let's go back to a scene, a time, a place, an event that had all to do with why you're depressed. And then the person's like, well, yeah, when I, used to wait for dad to come home and I didn't know if he was going to hit me or, come home drunk or throw a beer bottle at me, whatever it was. I think that's it. And then we talk about what the meaning was around that, because the trauma isn't actually what Dr. Gabor Mate says. The trauma isn't actually what happened to you. That's a traumatic event. Do you know what the trauma actually is? The trauma is what you tell yourself after the event or during the event that changes your thinking in your body and your brain
And your physiology, I guess.
and your
All
physiology.
of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Wow. Well, one of the things that I'm very blessed and grateful for is that you've made this transformation. My wife and I have been following you on Instagram as the new Brad, I like to call you, for the last couple of years. And while you've always had a bright and beautiful smile, your face didn't light up. And now every time we see you on camera, you're glowing, and you talked about your health and your wealth and all of these things. So I want everyone that's listening to understand that you're not alone where you are, and most of us have not realized the best version of ourselves yet. Is that a fair statement?
A majority of human beings have not realized, yes, because of these untruths that they tell themselves from childhood programming.
Right.
100%.
Right. And so, are you still looking for? I'm going to shift gears on you as I land the plane. Two things I wanted to mention. From a real estate standpoint, are you still actively buying and selling and willing to collaborate with some people in our group?
Absolutely. I mean, we did 256 deals last year. We also operate in the Los Angeles market and a lot of Southern California.
Wow.
So if you happen to be inside, you've got so many members in this group. I know they're all over the country. So kudos to you. So yeah, we'd be open to working with anyone.
Okay. And then to just kind of finish where we started, Brad, how do we get in touch with you? And tell me a little bit about what RTT stands for again.
Yeah, rapid transformational therapy. So if you go to bradchandler.com/RTT, there's a little video that I put up there that explains more about it. And I would, I'm here to provide value, guys. So whether you want to ask me questions on my 4,000 real estate flips, or you want to ask me questions about my personal life, anything, like it's completely open. I'll share anything with you. So if there's any questions, if anyone wants to, ask me any question about life or changes or anything, I'm just here to provide value and make an impact. So please let me know if there's any questions or any thoughts you had.
Yeah, you want to just unmute if you want to pop on. Like I said, Brad's been in real estate in the Baltimore, DC metro market for the past 20 years. So, we do appreciate all of you that have tuned in. But, Ashley, Sherry, anyone, if you want to unmute and share any comments, thoughts, questions, that's awesome. Anyone, you're welcome to do that. So, Brad, I definitely wanted to say thank you on a personal note. We are glad that we've reconnected, and we love the journey that you're on. And we were talking about it earlier today. We're just here to add rocket fuel, bro.
Yeah, awesome, man. I'm excited to have reconnected as well. And I I was talking with a coach of mine. I have several coaches, and I was talking with a coach of mine recently, and we were trying to come up with not really a tagline, but just he was like, well, what do you do? What is it that you really do? And I was like, I end people's suffering, and that's it. You don't have to suffer. I suffered for 47 years. And again, I didn't wake up every day in misery. I was a fairly happy guy, but I was missing this big part of myself. I was missing the authentic Brad. Like I couldn't be myself because I felt like myself wasn't good enough. And true freedom, literally true freedom, is through self-love and self-compassion, but it's also a component of being yourself all the time. Like I don't need to hide anymore around anything. Like I will tell you anything. You can say anything to me, and if it upsets me, then I'm like, well, I got some more work to do. So
Right.
you don't have to suffer. If you're in a shitty relationship, if your business sucks, if your health is bad, whatever it is that you're suffering with, despite what everyone told you and despite how you grew up, you don't deserve to suffer. You were not put on this earth to suffer. You were put on this earth to thrive, to be joyous, to be deeply connected with other human beings, and to do something really purposeful. Every single person listening to this has a massive mission in this world. And if you're sitting there scratching your head like, I don't know what the F my mission is, well, or my purpose, it's probably because you've got the proverbial lion chasing you. You've got these self-limiting beliefs that are eating up all kinds of your life. And man, life is short, because I tell you, 50 years just went like that. I cannot believe I'm 50 years old. I feel more like I'm 25, but I'm really 50, and I can't believe how fast it goes. So that's the huge message today, is that if you're suffering in any way, shape, or form, I'm no savior. Like you don't have to come to me, but just know that there's someone out there that can help you. And it doesn't take years. It takes literally a matter of hours. Most of my clients in the 3 to 5 hours of working with me see these profound life shifts.
Wow, that's fantastic. So again, it's bradchandler.com is how to get in touch with Brad. I always enjoy talking with you. I learn something every time I do, and it's so easy to get busy being busy that we're not actually thriving or living. I like to call living with blinders. You wake up in the morning and you brush your teeth and shave, do your makeup, you sit down and you eat, then you get in the car and you drive to work, and then you get in your cubicle and you look at your computer, and then you drive home, and then you eat, and then you watch TV, and then you go to bed. And you never see the world. You only react to what's in front of you. So to believe that we can live beyond the three dimensional is really hard for some people to grasp. But you're definitely in good company here. Brad and I have been in real estate over 39 years combined, and we definitely want to add value to any of you any way that we can. So bradchandler.com. If you want to change your mind, change your life, and change your bank account. What does RAIN stand for? You said you want us to make it rain in our business. What is that acronym?
Yeah. So this is from a book I read. She's actually an amazing individual, Tara Brock, and she's actually local to the DC. She ran before COVID, she written this really robust meditation center, which I never got a chance to go. But RAIN stands for, so Tara Brock is her name, and her book is called Radical Acceptance. It's one of the top books that I recommend. Just an amazing book. Every single person, unless you've got extreme self-love and you don't need it, every single person in the world should read this book. So she's distilled the practice of radical acceptance into a process that she calls RAIN, which stands for recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. I tweaked this and I went over a little bit, but I'll go over it again because it's so important. This is how you process things in your life. So number one, recognize, and that involves becoming aware of our feelings, thoughts, and sensations as they occur. For example, you may notice feelings of inadequacy rising when you make a mistake at work. Tom, you just mentioned that people often just wake up and go through their day, and most of them a lot of times in a triggered state. And it's just every day is the same thing: fighting with the wife, drinking, eating too much. And they never step back and be like, well, hang on a second. Let me just be aware, because you can only change with awareness. So number one is recognize, which is another word for awareness, right? Just, why am I feeling this way? Just take a pause rather than reaching for the donut or the beer or the joint. Just sit for a second. Recognize. So that's R. Allow involves these feelings, letting these feelings be rather than trying to suppress or change them with the alcohol or whatever it is. It's not about liking the feeling. It's about allowing them to exist. Again, most of us as children couldn't process our emotions. We had to stuff them down, depress them. You depress them long enough and you become what? You become depressed. So R, recognize. Number two is allow these feelings, sit with them. Number three is investigate. Ask us to gently explore these feelings with a sense of curiosity. Where do they come from? How do they manifest in our body? What beliefs are attached to them? That was in my process. At the end, it's just like, where did these come from? So that's investigate. Because again, I have taken now, I had triggered states, Tom, where my ex-wives would come to me. They'd say something that I did. I would turn it on them. So that was my fight. And then I'd flight. I would detach from them for like 3 days. And I didn't like it, but I didn't know why. Like, I had no idea. I know now why, because my subconscious mind was saying, see, I'm right. You are no good. So I had to come out to survive and fight or flight, right? Now, when my girlfriend says something that bothers me, I go, oh, I'm sorry. Let's talk about it, because I don't need to prove anything. So that's eyes, investigate. And finally, the N and make it rain is nurture. And it's about comforting and soothing ourselves. So this could be as simple as placing a hand on her heart and offering a word of kindness to yourself. When you feel this way, guys, it isn't the 45-year-old self that feels bad. It's the 6-year-old self inside you. So if your 6-year-old self would walk up and tug on your pants or your dress and say, hey, I'm really feeling inadequate right now, how would you handle that? Would you say, you are inadequate? Let's go drink some beer? I hope not. You'd pick that little child up and you'd be like, you're not inadequate at all. You're a gift to this world. I love you. I'm here for you. I'll take care of you. That's how you need to start treating yourself. You need to treat yourself like your own best friend, because the most important relationship you have in this world is with yourself. And this isn't narcissistic and this isn't self-centered. You want to have a better relationship with your kids or your business partner or your spouse or your mother or your father. Work on yourself and the relationship you have with yourself. If your marriage is failing, your relationship is failing, your relationship sucks, It has nothing to do with the actual relationship. It has to do with the relationship that each of you has with yourself. And I know this because I've lived it. I went to over 50 marriage counseling sessions with 2 wives. We'd come out of those worse than when we came in, because it was like, well, repeat back what they said and go on more date nights and be more affectionate. None of that shit works when you're fighting, when you've got 2 people fighting for their worthiness. It doesn't. So
Right.
if you want to fix your life, you got to fix a relationship with yourself. The fact that you were disconnected from yourself is just your brain protecting you from the pain that you went through. So you just have to heal that pain and turn it around, and then everything changes. So I have a similar process that I've actually, I think, I hate to say, made it a little bit better. It's a daily emotional tracker that I give all my clients. I'll give it to you if you'd like. And it's at bradchandler.com/tracker. Get that thing right now. Use it all the time, because I have clients that will use it before the first session, and they'll use it for a week and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I've had a huge breakthrough. Like, now I can see this pattern that I have. And it says clear as day at the top of the sheet, completely free, how to do everything. Start doing that, and you'll start to see your relationships and everything changing in your life.
Sure, sure. Well, definitely want to land the plane here. If anyone has any questions about life transformation, real estate, whatever, feel free to unmute. If no one asks any questions over the next 60 seconds or so, special shout out to Sherry Smith. Haven't spoken to her in quite a while, and welcome to the group. Larry Lesson, who owns Save Six, flat fee listing company, is on with us as well. Malachi Irvin, my homeboy, haven't talked to in a while. Great to have you here. And of course, Benjamin and Ashley. So thank you all for joining us. Any parting thoughts before we go, Brett?
No, I think I'm just going to reiterate that if you're suffering, you don't have to suffer. Life is beautiful when you can see it that way. I changed my lens 2 years ago, and the world is a beautiful place. It's not perfect, but there's a lot more love and good in this world than there is bad. And that's how I see the world. You get to choose to see the world any way you like it, any way you want. You know, if you've got programming from the past that's affecting you, you probably see the world as a scary place with lots of bad things. I see the world as full of opportunity, full of connections, full of impact, full of love. And that's how I'm going to choose to live my life. I stopped watching news 2.5 years ago. I went to check the weather last weekend because I was taking my boat out for an overnight. And so I'm in the car on YouTube, YouTube TV, which I use for TV, although I hardly ever watch it. And Fox News, I turn it on, Tom. The first story is judge in Montgomery County says that this is the worst child abuse case they saw in 25 years. And they explain what happened. And I'm just like, I was like, forget the weather. I turned it off, and I'm like, this is why I don't watch the news. Yes. So I live in my happy bubble. I don't know everything that's going on. When I'm on the stair climber, I look at the TV in the gym every morning, and sometimes I see stuff and I'm like, I would have never known had I looked at that. A building collapse in Iowa, would have no idea. Why do I need to know about a building collapse in Iowa? Other than to maybe pray for the people, but I can't do anything with that. So I've cut out all that negativity in my life. So I live in my happy bubble. I help other people become happy. Life is about joy and purpose and your massive mission. So if I can help you, let me know, and just don't suffer another day. You don't have to. There's a better way.
Yeah, absolutely. And no matter where you are in your station in life, you can always affect positive change. Also, one of the things I want to tell everyone coming up, we're going to be having some events on the water coming up. So we don't know what that looks like yet. So we'll keep you abreast of what's happening on Forever Friday. But anyway, thank you, Brad. Absolute pleasure. If anyone wants to add anything, great. Ashley said thanks. Sherry said thanks. Benjamin said thank you all again. Again, much love to everybody. Thank you for being here. Brad, you're one of my favorite people on earth. Let's get together soon.
Thank you. Thank you. Remember, love heals all. Love heals all, guys.
Yes, sir.